Greetings and the best of salutations. I want to try to explore something, if I will, and if I can. Yes, and hopefully there is something that is shared that can be comprehended, wherein one is avoiding being extreme. I will share some religious text or teaching, and I am not a promoter of any religious teaching or faith. I promote the value of self-worth, and we will deal with that self-worth because worth is in the degree but not in the value. Some people will give up on life. And that happens to do with maybe social comparison, comparing yourself with others. It could do with not having the necessarily resources that you need, the support system that you need. You struggling with a sense of feeling inadequacy, which is a social learning disability. But you are worthy enough and valued enough and adequate enough and honored enough to be on this plane of existence called Earth, which is a place of rest and where you find your grounding, become grounded. And along the way you find your bearings. So this Earth is a support system. Yes. And you keep your feet on this solid ground. And when I think of solid ground, I think of solidarity, and that happens to deal with respect. And in the words of Dr. Francis Welch, he said, if the people don't respect themselves, they won't protect themselves. So hopefully that which I'm sharing, I'm approaching this conscientiously. In a religious sense, it says some people gave up their Islam after they had been following the truth because their hearts and minds could not comprehend that. Comprehension. Even though I said that I am going to take this conscientious approach, and taking the conscientious approach is deal with syncretism, which means I reverence not only the womb that gave me birth, but all the experiences and facets of life and all faiths. And at the end of the day, it is to reclaim social solidarity. Because when you have solidarity, anything that comes up against you, if you can exact that same force, it will proceed coming at you with caution. So the first sign is a cautionary sign. They could not comprehend that they denied what their knowledge. This is hell of a stuff there. That their knowledge could not grasp. I realized that people become entertained by knowledge in which we cannot grasp. We're dealing with an enchantment or an enchanter or a conjecturer. Yes. And a master magician will not let you know his or her tricks. Just look at the society, because we're trying to help me. I'm just trying to avoid taking a mainstream or position and trying to avoid, being extreme, because when one exceed his or her limits, they will be exposed in anything. It says, but Allah calls it to increase and strengthen the faith of others. If we continue to do social comparison and seeing where others are in comparison to where you are, and we all on this plane of existence called Earth, right? Under one roof. See, I realize that we're all created equal with the same faculties and the same nature. It's just a matter of way in which we use it. Same faculty, same faculty, the same nature, and I would say the same consciousness. I think it's just a matter of way in which we use it. Some will argue that some were born differently. Amen. Because we realize if there is an open enemy, it is not being able to control our instinct. Yes. Increase and strengthen the faith of others. Well-meaning people. That's whom the message is for. But a trial, I've realized that trial and error leads to personal discovery. Meaning a test. A test is designed to see how you process information. Okay. Now, it is also said this here. The ancient Egyptians say this here. When it comes to know thyself, a person who knows not and knows not that they know not is foolish. Disregard them. A person who knows not and knows that they know not is simple. Teach them. This is the one. A person who knows not and believes that they know is dangerous. Avoid them. We want to try to avoid extremism. Yes. being misguided. It says in the Christian Bible, it says when it comes to a change on the inside, and if we can, and if I could do my best to try to make a point in reference to, how we tend to think of ourselves as humans more highly than we ought to. But it says, for I say through the grace, this is Romans chapter 3 in the English Bible, Christian Bible, given unto me to every man, a type of man, I say, man for me represents potential, that is among you, every talents and gifts and skills. A type of person is among you. Whatever that type of person is among you. In the gathering, in the congregating together. He's making something to be clear here. Not to. This is a warning. Not to. Think of himself more highly than he ought to think. Booker T. Washington said this about success. He says, success is not about the position that you attain. It's about the obstacle that you had to overcome. The insignificance, the unimportance, and the unnecessary extreme behavior that is taking place when we hurt, harm, endanger, and injure each other. Why I ask that? As I just stated earlier, I said to when it comes to extremism, being very, very extreme, and when you see yourself as being insignificant, you see the other person as being insignificant, and unnecessarily things that you would do would be senseless, which means you are becoming desensitized. Yes. And when a person becomes desensitized, it takes on a form of a possession, of being possessed. But it goes on to say, but to think soberly, which means sound mind, moderate. Avoid the positions, as I said, avoiding. As teachers think you can avoid. Avoid the rejection of extreme views. Now, we can look at the certain industries in the world, wherever it may be, how people who are benefiting being extreme, and then others will follow suit of being extreme as well. And that is really misguiding the people. Because if people will go out their way to make you feel as though that you are insignificant, then you have to prove to them that you are significant, that you are just as important as they are. It is said that self-importance is the greatest enemy. Think about it. What weakens us is feeling offended by the deeds and misdeeds of our fellow men. Our self-importance requires that we spend most of our lives offended by someone. Said there'll come a time where people will be easily offended, like a trigger in a trap, and it produces hostility toward one another. So, be sober-minded according as God hath dealt to every man. Yes, to be sober-minded. To be moderate, not only in your thinking, but even in your attire. To every man the measure of faith. I'll stop right there. Some of you can go further on with that. Is it necessary, in the text that I just read from that passage, it can go further, and I am not trying to elaborate any further on that text there. Is it necessary to geographically go to the extreme to identify with your place of origin? That's the question. Some are citizens of certain geographical locations. They identify with that country. That's fine. But when you go to the extreme of identifying with something, a country, as a human being who really is a peripheral people when it comes to the largeness, the vastness of this universe. Small, huh? Small. Very insignificant. Yes. So it says, and I don't promote anything, not claiming anything. It says, read in the name of thy Lord. Yes. Which means you need help. You need help. But it's almost like something that is parenthetical or parenthetical. Something that could be not absolutely necessary or put into something that is written, but it is not essential. Essential. Insignificant. The quality of one's being is small in comparison to a higher being that is greater than the human being? You are insignificant, or we are insignificant without the help of a higher being. Or we can be insignificant without helping and assisting each other. We all need each other. Yes. So, the significance of this order is expressed. Okay. Parenthetical. As referring to the origin of man. The order is read to show that it is through reading and writing that man can attain a position of glory. That it is by the use of the pen that knowledge can be acquired. The words in the name of thy Lord signify by the help of thy Lord. Nourisher unto or into perfection.